A few months back, I had Reese Gordon on. You might know him as Howdy555 from the Horned Frog Blitz board. And we talked about, TCU baseball. Things were pretty bleak then. Well, now they're in the College World Series. So he's joining us again, and we're going to discuss what the heck has happened with this baseball team and more. That's all coming up next on Locked On Horned Frogs.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is your team every day. I'm Steven Simcox. You can subscribe to Locked On Horned Frogs on YouTube. Also find us wherever it is you get your podcasts. And we're joined by Reese Gordon. You notice at the bottom here, we have a place for a Twitter handle. Reese is smarter than me. He's not on Twitter because he understands he's got a life to live. He is on the message board. So I put his handle, Howdy555, down there. But we're having some fun. Reese came on the show a while back. And at the time, we talked some TCU football. We also talked some baseball. And in fairness to him, at the time, things did not look good for TCU baseball. And he was critical of Coach Sarloos. He was critical of, the team to a certain extent. And, honestly, it was sort of warranted then. Like, they were scuffling. They were a 500 ball club. But now they're in Omaha. So what has this been like? What has changed for this baseball team, Reese? And what has it been like for you to watch it over the past month as they have completely turned the season around?
First of all, I'm absolutely thrilled that they're in Omaha.
That's right, yeah.
I never root against somebody because it's personal.
Sure.
Unless they're on another team. But as far as TCU people, they're all working as hard as they can. I just didn't see – I thought at the time there was a lot of alarming trends, but that was 6 weeks ago, and sometimes you got to let it play out. And, I was a victim of that moment. However, all kudos to the whole staff. Sarloos and all the players. Obviously, everybody 6 weeks ago just started turning on. And when I came on, they were in the midst of like a 5 or 6 game winning streak, but it was still, it was almost like a lot had to go right.
Yeah, and it was against, like, the schedule softened up a little bit. And so they had turned things around, but, they were playing Baylor. They had played, I think, Cal State Fullerton the week before that. And it was really that K-State series that changed things. But, the thing that's amazed me is, and I'll get your thoughts on it as well, I thought the pitching staff had shown some promise, and maybe they'd be able to figure out. But, they're just hitting the cover off the ball. Not so much this past weekend. They did enough to move on. But, man, that Fayetteville Regional, they were just hitting the ball all over the place. And really, the offense has kind of carried them lately, which has been crazy to see because they were a really frustrating team early in the year because they just couldn't get runs across the plate and get big-time hits when they needed it.
Right, and so many of those things are correctable, right? But when it's a season-long event,
yeah,
it gets in your head, and I think it probably got in their head too. They had to have a players-only meeting to try to turn things around. But situational baseball is obviously, I never played in the big leagues or in minor leagues or even college, but I understand situational baseball is like, especially when you get guys on second and third, that's like getting in the red zone in football. Red zone scoring. The teams that score that have a high red zone percentage are going to win. Same with baseball. Teams that have guys on second and third, and less than 2 outs and get those guys home, they're going to win a lot of games. And that started to turn, that tide turned, because I think, I don't have stats on this, but it seems like the last month, especially in the Big 12 championship and the Big 12 tournament and into the regionals, TCU it didn't matter when they got guys on, how many outs were, they were going to score. And that's dangerous.
No, it is. And you're totally right. Like early in the season, runner on third, less than 2 outs, that didn't feel like an automatic run. It was kind of touch and go from that regard. I know you were at Lupton this past weekend. Big time crowd, great atmosphere. you dealt with the heat on Friday. What was your experience like watching the Super Regionals when you got up there?
Well, I was stoked, honestly. I went up. I got there early enough, and man, it was hot. It was. I mean, that was the game. Thankfully, the game only lasted like 2.5 hours. I think it was like 2:29, like around that. But it was so warm out in right field. It was packed. Obviously, not as packed as it was the next night on Saturday after that 2-hour delay. You know, that probably helped TCU because TCU fans are normally pretty late arriving for unusual game times, right? So that 7 o'clock game, watching it on TV or on my phone rather, because I don't have ESPN
Plus.
I have ESPN Plus on my phone. I don't have at my house. I stream everything, and I don't have whatever. So
ESPNU maybe or something like that.
Right. So I was watching on my cell phone, but you know what? I mean, that was great. You know, it was great to see almost 9,000. You know, almost almost 18,000 people for the weekend. So I mean, it was awesome, and I'm watching Cole Klecker pitch really well. I mean, he went 7 innings. It was probably the best he's pitched. That was the best outing he's had this entire season in a big spot against a really good team. I mean, Indiana State, I was really impressed with them. Their pitching was very, 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 very good.
Now, they're a good team, fundamentally sound, had a good staff. And that was really encouraging because, I mean, Reese, you know, we're passionate about this. We follow TCU. It can be hard to get people there all the time, to sell out crowds, even when the team's doing well. And TCU's had good atmospheres for regionals and super regionals in the past. I don't know what why this one took off the way it did, but it was really cool to have that, packed house, even if it did lead to some uncomfortable situations for the people that are actually there. It was nice to see just a full crowd on TV like that, because that's not always the case when we're talking about TCU sporting events.
Right. I mean, I honestly think that TCU fans have come
a long way.
There's more diehard TCU fans now than there used to be. I think people have gotten the message. It's never going to look like it does at Texas A&M or UT or any state university, but the fans that TCU has currently are, I think, growing in the fanaticism that it takes to really have a good home field or home court, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm. No, I'd agree with that. I mean, it does seem like I think the fans are making an effort. I think the university is making an effort to try to make it a more raucous atmosphere, a more accessible place for everybody, which is really cool. We're going to talk about Omaha here in a minute. I do have an ad break coming up right now, but next we'll talk Omaha with Reese Gordon and this TCU baseball team. That's coming up on Locked On Horned Frogs. Do you want to quickly mention Birddogs? You can go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege. You get a free Yeti tumbler with any purchase when you go to that website. Again, that's birddogs.com/lockedoncollege. Shorts, pants, they're comfortable. They're versatile. You can wear them just about anywhere. They fit you well. They, stretch and move well to make you comfortable. And you can kind of get away with wearing them in like a more formal event. You can, wear them around the house. Summer's here. It's like 105 outside. Heat and humidity is crazy. Don't get uncomfortable pants to wear. Don't get uncomfortable shorts. Wear Birddogs, proud sponsor of the Locked On Network. Okay, Reese, so how are you feeling as this team steps into Omaha? It does seem like they're in the more manageable side of the bracket. Our people that are listening to this are catching it on a Friday, so they're listening on the day that TCU is going to take on Oral Roberts. Virginia and Florida also in the mix here. Team's playing well. I mean, do you think there's a path here for them to get to that national championship series, hopefully in about a week or so?
Let me just say, I'm super excited for later today, right? I'm super excited. And so I think the biggest thing is every team that's made it to Omaha is amazing. you're elite. If you've made it there, you can win it, but you can also go 2-2, as they say, right? I think that it is somewhat of a break that they're not in the same bracket as Wake Forest, who has just been a steam engine, steamrolling people all year.
Yeah.
But I certainly don't think that TCU can just overlook Oral Roberts just because they've not been there since 1978.
Mm-hmm.
Oral Roberts is really good. I mean, they were 23-1 in the conference in their conference play, and the guy they're starting is, I think it's Jacob Hall.
Yeah, that's right.
His ERA is like 3.56, and that's a lot lower than anybody on TCU starting staff, right? I think that TCU is just going to have to continue to do what got them there, which is play great defense, pitch how they've been pitching, and when they get guys on base, get back to stealing bases, and then try to steal runs with base hits, like they were doing before they went up against Indiana State's catcher, who was kind of stopped that whole parade.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. So, I mean, do you feel like this is the week for them? Because they've been aggressive on the base pass. They really were in the regular season. Indiana State has a good catcher. And whoever it is, I mean, if you can find a way to advance runners, that's going to be a huge deal. So you think that could be a big part of the formula this week, is just being active on the base pass?
Well, I guess it's not entirely fair for me to assume that, because, to be honest, I don't know anything about Oral Roberts' catcher. I just don't. And but it did seem like going into the Indiana State series that was one of the things that Sarlos and some of the players talked about. They already knew that catcher was a great catcher. And when I watched him in warm-ups, before the game, he was throwing down to second, he was throwing down to third. He one-hopped a couple throws, but, I mean, his arm, you could just tell. You could tell he was really good. I think that TCU is going to, if they get the leadoff man on, they're from inning one, they're going to test that guy for sure.
Yeah.
Whoever he is.
Right, for sure. Yeah. I mean, Oral Roberts is a good team. I think you mentioned Jacob Hall, their starter. They also got Jonah Cox, who's riding like a 47-game hitting streak, which is insane. So that'll be a fun game this afternoon. So they added Ben Hampton in the transfer portal. What do you think a run like this will do for this program moving forward? Because we've talked about Kurt Sarloos, like it's coming up on the end of year 2 now. He's sort of still making his own identity. How can this sort of springboard this team? Because it's been a while, Reese. It's been 6 years since they've made it to this place. Mm-hmm. And it's still a big brand name in college baseball, but it feels like this is kind of a huge moment for them, sort of a crossroads, and maybe they can get back to being more consistent at this level.
Well, I mean, they went 4 straight years from 2014 to 2017, right?
Yeah.
And they've had the players, even in the years that they've not gone to Omaha. Those players were recruited that were standout players, came on the backs of those teams. That, I mean, winning breeds more winning. I mean, that's just how it goes. But I mean, College World Series wise, it's just very difficult to get there. Now, as a TCU fan, I do think that myself and others have grown accustomed to TCU at least competing to make it to Omaha. And that is where some of the frustration was setting in, right? So now that they're back there, I definitely feel like their recruiting efforts are going to continue to land really good players. I mean, whether it's in the portal, whether it's from the high school ranks.
I got one more question for Reese before we go. We'll take a quick break and then get back to him. It's Locked On Horned Frogs. All right, final thing for Reese Gordon. You can find him on Horned Frog Blitz. He's Howdy555, posts there frequently. So you know this program well. You know this university. Is there any question? I mean, is this the best time ever to be a TCU fan? This year, we watched the football team make the run in the national title game. Basketball goes around 32. Baseball's in Omaha. I know there's a lot of ancillary sports. Men's tennis was in the Final Four. Beach volleyball was in the Final Four. The volleyball, the indoor volleyball team made the tournament. Is there anything you can compare this to in your time as a TCU fan? Has there ever been a time that's better than right now because of all the sports success that everyone's having?
I don't think that you can compare it to anything else. I think it's been a long time in the works, so to speak. I think all those coaches and players in different sports that came before have laid the kind of foundation to where TCU could have a year like 2022/23. I mean, there's not anything. No, I guess that's the answer is no. I mean, they are punching so high above their weight class. If you consider and I don't like to even make that excuse, to be honest, because the only people that are surprised necessarily that TCU is having success are people that have never been there, that don't understand the commitment to athletics that they have.
No, I'd agree with that. I mean, I think that 2010, you had the College World Series and Rose Bowl combined, but it wasn't the same academic year. It was, a little separated. But you're right. I mean, there is a commitment to athletics here that is amazing. Well, Reese, thank you for doing this, man. And I mean, just before we go, what are you feeling? I won't put you on the spot and force you to make a prediction, but how far do you think this baseball team can go as they get ready to make their Omaha debut tomorrow or today?
Well, at risk of jinxing them, I think that they're going to make it to the World Series championship final, the College World Series final, whatever you want to say, the championship series. And I think that they're going to be playing against Wake Forest, and it's going to be the battle of two private schools.
Man, I love it. I love it.
And I want to say this. We kind of touched on it, but it's absolutely right. I was 1,000,000% wrong about where the program was heading, just so everybody knows, so you can stop bothering me about it. I knew as soon as I could almost, and I know Kirk Saarloos doesn't care about my opinion. I mean, he's got stuff to do. He doesn't, and I don't expect anybody to care about my opinion. Okay, I enjoy talking on the message board, but I will say that I am sorry that I doubted them so much.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of us doubted them, and there were reasons to have those doubts at the time, but they've done what they said they were going to do, which is turn it around, and kudos to them for doing it. And as you said, we're all happy that they are where they are, and we're going to be watching it, and we're going to be excited and supporting them, whether we're on our couch or in Omaha. It'll be fun to see it. And thank you, Reese, for coming on. Thanks for being open and honest about it, and always fun to have you on the show, man.
Yep, I got a shirt on right now. You see it says tradition is here. Boom.
I like that. Look at that blue outline, that neon. Looks like a radioactive frog. I love it.
Well, it's, we're in the age of the hypnotoad, so I guess we got to have the radioactive frog as well. So
that's true. He's Reese Gordon. He's been great today. Good luck to everybody watching the College World Series this afternoon. We appreciate you making some time. It's Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day.